because that's not the kind of person I am. My name is Turner Chitty. I work at the English Language Institute. I've taught English as a second language for many, many years, many more than you have been on the planet, most of you, which is okay. The reason that I wanted to set this up today, and here is my mic man. Okay. I wanted to set this up today because I got into a conversation with Angel. Where's Angel? There's Angel. He's coming. And I have given this presentation, or a version of this presentation, at several professional conferences, but I've never given it at UT. So I thought it would be a nice thing for you guys to understand a little bit about what I've been thinking about for the last 4 or 5 years. How many of you know, well, do you see the title? How We Really Talk. Using phrasal verbs in English. How many of you do know what a phrasal verb is? How many of you know? Raise your hands high, come on. Okay, and how many of you can name a phrasal verb?
You mean an example?
Yeah, give me an example. Go off. Go off. As in, like the bomb went off yesterday? Yes, that's a good one.
Take care.
What?
Take care.
Take care of someone. Oh, gosh. Yes, I have to actually turn it on.
Yeah, it's just going to make a lot of sound.
Does this work? Can you hear me? Hello? No. I forget it. You forget it. Forget it. It's okay. I'll just do without it. Okay, so take off, take care of, take in. There are so many. The problem for non-native speakers, for you guys, is that these kinds of verbs are not taught adequately, I think, and most of you felt that when you came here. Is this correct? That there were a lot of things that American people said that you could not understand. You understood the words. You understand take and off, but you don't understand what they mean. Correct? Okay, it's a big problem. It's a big problem. Now, so let me go on. So let's take a look quickly at what are phrasal verbs. English uses a lot of verbs that combine with prepositions to create these things like jump up, lock down, reach across. And those are simple prepositions. You can understand that, jump up, right? Okay. But then English also uses a lot of verbs that use things that look like prepositions, but they're actually not functioning as prepositions. Okay, they're not, for example, cheer up. You've heard cheer up, correct? Has nothing to do with up. Right? Yeah. Okay, so they're not necessarily prepositions. Here's a good example. We have 2 throw-ups. Okay, throw up. I'm not going to really throw this thing up because if I do, I'll break it and then they will send me to the jail or something. So, but throw up also, as you know, means to vomit, right? And we don't, in a sense, there's a little bit of up there, but there's not really a lot of, it's not really up, okay? So it's functioning really as an adverb, and even there we don't really understand what it means. So let's I'm going to take you on. Here's some more to take us on. Some examples of difficult phrasal verbs. These are difficult ones. Some of them you can guess, but some of them you can't. Give up. I'm giving these to you because I'm giving them to you. So give up means surrender. Wind up. How many of you know this one? To wind up. But you hear it probably a lot. Okay? We could say the session wound up. That's in the past, of course. Okay? The session wound up at 3. And it means that it ended at 3. Native speakers use this kind of thing all the time. And we are completely unaware of how much you don't understand it. Do you have a question?
No, no.
Oh, okay, sorry. All right. We have fall for someone. Hi, Bandar. Okay, we have fall fall for someone, which means to be infatuated with someone, to fall in love with someone. To run into someone, you've heard this probably a lot, but you haven't thought about it, and you probably wouldn't be able to write it or speak it. I ran into Jeremy the other day, and it means to accidentally encounter somebody, or to meet somebody by accident. You didn't mean to meet them. To rule something out is to exclude a possibility. To drop over. This one is a really difficult one, this over, and I'm going to explain to you in a moment how you can understand these things. Because right now they look random. They are not actually random. And sleepover. I love sleepover. It doesn't mean actually lying on top of someone. It means to stay for the night. Now I see that you're doing a lot of note-taking. If you're welcome to do that. I actually have all of this stuff in a book, and if you want to buy the book, that's good. I have another book with just the most important information that's coming in the mail like tomorrow, or maybe it will be waiting for me when I get home. So you don't have to take notes if you don't want to, because I have it all. What?
For the second one, so I think that you changed the pronunciation for the wind.
So interesting, yes. As a noun, it is wind. As a verb, it is wind, like you do with a clock, an old-fashioned clock or a watch. Yeah. And we even use wound up as an adjective to say that when we say that somebody is wound up, we mean that they're in a state of high tension. Just like a clock is when you wind it up. Okay? So we could say, in fact, 10 minutes ago I was really wound up. I was really nervous because I thought, nobody's going to come to my presentation, and then you came. So I'm really happy. I'm now unwinding. Okay. Now, why do you need to know about phrasal verbs? And you really do. You need to know them because they're how we really speak. They are the language that native speakers use in everyday communication. We are completely unaware of how often we use these things, and we often are completely unaware that you don't know what they mean. We even try sometimes to, well, actually I'll go to this in a moment. I'll go to that point in a moment. Okay, so the question arises, why is oral English, why is spoken English so different from formal English or academic English? Because most of you in your home countries, when you studied English, you studied formal English, right? And so there was a whole section of English that nobody introduced you to. And this, I think, is because even the people who write the textbooks are not aware that this is not something you understand naturally, because we understand it deep in our bones. We learn it at our mother's knees. Okay? All right. Now, English, the answer to why English has different levels of language is that English is not like most languages. Most languages are the pure language. Chinese is Chinese. Spanish is a form of Latin. Okay? But English really has 5 constituent languages that are deeply, deeply in the bones of the language. And here they are, I hope, if I can get them. The first one, oops. Go. The first one is Anglo-Saxon, which came in, the Anglo-Saxon people moved to England around 450 AD. And they brought their language with them. There was a previous language there called Celtic, but this is the language, the Anglo-Saxon language is the skeleton of our language. This is the bones of our language. The next one that came to England, these are all, well, 3 of them are immigrant people and languages into England. The first was Anglo-Saxon. The second is Old Norse. These are the Vikings that we remember from our history. That they came and they brought a slightly different language. It was still Germanic, but it was different. Words like wife, our word wife is Old Norse. It is not Anglo-Saxon. Old French was probably one of the most important things. It was probably the most important thing. In 1066, there was a huge invasion of people from France that came into England. They brought their language. But more importantly, they brought their cultural structures. They brought their courts. They brought their offices. And they brought, and in fact, our word bureaucratic, do you know the word bureaucratic? It comes from the French bureau, which means office. So a bureaucracy is a place that is run by office holders, or by, so that is also deep in our language. The next two languages are very important, but they're not because people moved to England. It came in different ways. Latin is a very important constituent language for us, and the last one is Greek. Now, if you are in any science, who here is in a science? You're in a science. Anybody else? Sciences, biological sciences, chemical sciences, medical science, philosophy. These are many words come to those disciplines from Greek. And they came from the 15th to the 19th century in the scientific revolution. Okay, let me keep going. The thing is that we have a kind of unequal distribution of these languages in English. All of our structural words, and when I say structural words, I mean things like a and the and all the words and the prepositions, all of these words that glue our language together, all of these come from Anglo-Saxon. Okay? Either Anglo-Saxon or Old Norse. Many of our common nouns come from Old French, like this one. Table. Table is table, and it comes directly from French. So those things, so our everyday vocabulary is here. It's in Anglo-Saxon or Old French. Almost all of the words that you have learned, if you have studied at the ELI, by the time you get to level 105, 106, we begin to teach you the academic word list. And almost all of that, I've actually gone through those, checking off the words, and they're all French. They're all French. There's not even any point in checking them off because they're all French. Okay, they have close cognates in modern French. The specialist language comes largely from Latin or from Greek. Okay, now I'm going to keep going. This is something that I came up with. I wanted to show you a few examples of this, and then we'll get directly to the phrasal verbs, and it'll go pretty fast, I hope. When I conceive of English, I conceive of it as a house. Okay? A house, and I think of it as an American house because I'm an American. So I think of coming into the first floor of the house where the kitchen is and where the kids are hanging out and mom's cooking and there's the living room and you're using just the relaxed language that you speak with your family. Okay? So that would be red. This level here is red. One floor up, I think about kids who are, high school kids who are studying their vocabulary. And they're trying to learn the difficult academic, for us they're difficult, the academic level words. Those are from French. Up here, I think about Grandpa, up in the third floor, he's writing a book. Or maybe like me, writing my book, okay? But using specialist words that not everybody knows. I think of here, down here in the basement, in an American house, there is often a basement that we would call a rumpus room or something. It would be a place where the teenagers hang out and speak in language that they do not want their parents to hear. Like, oh, God, I fucked up today. Like, excuse me, but, you know. So here is the basement with the offensive words, which are quite different, and these are not acceptable anywhere else. And finally, in the attic, I put up in the attic, I was an English literature major, and I loved poetry. And there are many words that we only use, really, in poetry, or we only use in literature. And they are very beautiful words, but we use them for limited purposes. So we can see some examples here. Minion, in the attic, minion, quotidian, buxom, murmurous. Level 3, cardiomyopathy, venous, somatic, aorta. These are words, interestingly, at level 3, these words, which come from Greek, these words are words that most Americans do not understand unless they are specifically trained. So if I go upstairs or if I go over to the pilot and I say, oh my God, to the guy at the counter, I say, oh my God, I have a little touch of cardiomyopathy. which means pain in my heart, in the muscle of my heart, right? Or sickness in the muscle of my heart. He's going to look at me like, what? Because he doesn't understand it. So most Americans they are totally fluent in level 1. They totally know it. If they're educated, they know level 2. If they're super educated, they know level 3. Everybody knows the basement, and nobody admits it. And the attic words are words for word lovers. Those of us who love words, we know a lot of them. Okay? So I'm going to go on. Now, the characteristics of level 1. This is the one we're looking at. It's everyday language. These are short words. The Anglo-Saxon words are short words. There are permutations. That's a long word. Permutations means changes of the verbs according to the prepositions with which they're used. It's very idiomatic. This is level 1. And this is what phrasal verbs are. They are level 1 language. Okay? Now here's some myths about phrasal verbs. The first is that they're random. And in fact, in most of your, probably when you were studying English, they introduced these things like give in or give up. They introduced them all in context. And the idea behind that is that there's no system. But actually, I believe there is a system, and I'm going to show it to you. The second myth is that they can only be learned one by one in context. And the third myth, which I actually heard somebody at a professional conference once say, that they're not very important. And that is just so wrong. It is so wrong. I can't even understand how professional teachers can believe that these are not important when they really are how we really talk. Okay, so this is the cool thing that I discovered when I started thinking about phrasal verbs, is that they're really not random. If we look at a word like around, okay, there is a limited number of phrasal verbs that can be made with around. A limited number of normal verbs that can be paired with them. Okay? Synonyms won't work. Only these particular verbs with these particular prepositions will give you this particular meaning. Do you understand what I'm saying? Everybody? Hello? You there? Okay. All right. So if we look at around means like somewhere around me, like this, like in the neighborhood. Okay, somewhere in my vicinity. To be around means I will be there. I will be where you are, somewhere around you. I'll be around, see you around. Hang around. What does this mean to you? Do you know hang around? I saw some kids on the corner hanging around. They were doing nothing. They were just standing there, hanging around. They had no purpose. So to hang around means to be in that area, not doing anything. To kid around, kid means here to joke, and it means to be joking around with the people around you. To horse around means to be playing physically with the people, with someone in an area. Play around can mean two things. It can be just playing, but it has a different meaning, which means to be, we can talk about maybe a husband who is sleeping with someone other than his wife. He's playing around on her. And we understand that one. To stick around, what do you think it might mean? Do you know? Stick means like stay, right? Stick around means to stay in the place and not go somewhere else. Does this make sense? Okay. To sleep around is exactly what I was talking about here with play around. Sleep around really does mean that a person is having many sexual liaisons with different people. Sleeping around is, oh, she's sleeping around. Okay, so it's always gossip, always bad, right? Workaround is something that you all use. Because a workaround is to find a way to go around a problem, to find, if you don't have a direct solution, you find a different way to solve the problem. You work around your limitation. Does this make sense to you? Okay, let's go on. So the mythbuster number 2 is that these the mythbuster is that they can in fact be learned as part of a system, and that's what I'm going to present to you today. I'll be doing this for about 20 more minutes, and then I will ask you all to do a little bit of work with these, to work with a partner, to begin to put these into written language in about 20 minutes, okay? Maybe 30 minutes, all right? So the logic of it, according to me, and I'm the authority in this room, so I get to say whatever I want to say. Okay, the logic of phrasal verbs really is deeply rooted in the language. Now, it's not always very, very clear, but the logic is there. If we think carefully about how they're constructed. So there are, as I have here, indicator signs. If you know the basic meaning of a preposition as it's used, and there's only a limited number, then you can figure out what something might mean. And your room for error is rather narrow. Okay, the Mythbuster number 3, they do matter. They're very important. Okay, and I'm going to skip that slide. It's a very nice slide, but I'm going to skip it. Okay, some of the prepositions actually have only basically one meaning. Across is always like a bridge. After is not after in time, but following. Along means accompanying. At is usually used as some kind of aggression. If you think about the difference between throwing something to someone and throwing something at someone, big difference. There's a big difference for us native speakers. All the native speakers are nodding. Well, actually one is, but that's big. All right, away is movement farther away, and around is nearer in the neighborhood. So those are fairly clear. But some of them have multiple meanings. And I don't even have enough really here. There's more here. I just got tired of typing. On has 2 different meanings. In has 2 different meanings. Down has 3 different meanings. Out has 6. Sorry. Up has 5. Okay, so, and don't panic. Don't panic. Okay, so let's take a look at this. If you focus then on the preposition, you can, instead of the main verb, you can see the commonalities, and you can begin to get an idea for how it's used. So what I've done is I've created these things, which are, I put at the center, I put the basic meaning of the preposition as it's used in these kinds of verbs. And then all around it, I put the phrasal verbs that use that preposition in that meaning. So we have here at the center, we have here the actual phrasal verb, and we have here the definition in other words, okay? All right. Oh, that's what I just said. Yeah. Okay. Center, definition, and this. Okay, so if we look at across, let's take a look at some of these. We have, can help me a little bit with your hands. Show me if you had to show me with your hands what across means. What would you do with your hands? Exactly. This. Right, to make a bridge. So we have come across as is to give a first impression. So we can say he comes across as nice, but he's really not. Got it? Okay, we have to cut across. This is something that native speakers use to say take a shortcut across something. To make a message clear is to get something across, which is what I'm trying to do here. I am trying to get this across to you. All right, oops. And to stumble across is something that we use with come across also, to find by accident. So we might say, I came across a nice little restaurant yesterday. You might want to try to, or I stumbled across it. Okay? After. I love this image. I love this image because in the phrasal verbs with after, there's the idea of following or of going toward. So we can say here, to be after something, like we can pursue a goal or a person. We could say, oh, she's after Sam. She is after Sam. It means she wants to have a relationship with Sam. We can go after someone. He's going after a PhD. To look after is to take care of someone. To name a baby after someone. You can tell if you might want to say to somebody, who were you named after? Or we also have that one with for. Who are you named after? I was named after my grandfather. Right? I was named after my grandmother. All right, to run after someone is similar to, and this one is a cool one. Look, to take after someone, you would never think this, right? To take after someone means to resemble a person in your family. So we could say, I have this horrible nose, right? My father gave me this nose, all right? Large nose for a small face, okay? I take after my father. Okay? So can think for a moment about what characteristic in you takes after some person in your family. You can say, or maybe just generally, I take after my grandmother. And then you tell a little more. Along usually means accompanying or going with somebody alongside. So we have here, we have a very interesting one here. To be certain number of months along. To be a certain number of months along means to be pregnant by that number of months. So we say she's 6 months along. And that's all we say. We know that she's pregnant. And we know how pregnant she is by saying this. Come along means to come with the group. To get along with somebody, I think you probably know. To go along with something means to consent, but without really agreeing. You're going with them, but you don't really want to. To play along means to pretend to agree with somebody. So if, what is your name?
Fashid.
Fashid? Okay, so Fashid tells me, for example, that he is the king of a wonderful country in Middle Europe, okay? And I say, oh, really? That's so interesting. I'm pretending to believe him. I am playing along so that he will feel good.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Sing along is well known. This means singing with other people. To string someone along is fascinating. So string someone along means to, like if we go through that, right, and I play along, and then you take it one step further and you say, well, next year I'm going to marry and have my queen. You're pulling me along in the same pretense. It's these are wonderful phrasal verbs. I love my language. I'm sorry, I can't help it, but I really just do. All right, so, and to tag along, do you know this one? Tag along is used when there's a child who wants to follow the big kids, and the big kids don't want the kid. So they'll say, don't tag along. Don't tag along with us. We don't want you to tag along. He was tagging along, Mom. So we complain to our parents. Apart. Not a very high resolution image, but apart we all know. To come apart at the seams, to fall apart. Fall apart is what we would use when we are just, everything's going to pieces. We don't know what we're going to do with our lives anymore. We disintegrate into pieces. Some things can fall apart and people can fall apart, right? Have you ever fallen apart? I do it frequently. And here it means lose emotional control. It can also mean with a machine to fail or to stop functioning because of age. So we would say my car fell apart, right? Could we use this? Native speakers, help me out here. Am I right? Okay, I think I'm right. I like to think I'm right. Okay, to grow apart or drift apart, with only these two particular words, mean to slowly lose interest in a relationship. So that, Bandar, we were talking, I think, one time in class about our old friends that we had from childhood, right? And we were talking about how sometimes, you know, the person you were close to when you were 8, you drift. You don't care about them anymore. It's not that you don't love them, but you just don't see them anymore. This is drifting apart or growing apart. To tear a place apart is to thoroughly search. To tell apart is to distinguish the identity of similar people. So I can't tell you apart. That means I can't tell the difference between you. Okay? At as aggression. I'm not going to show a cartoon with everyone because I just ran out of energy. To come at someone means to attack someone. To get at a problem means by probing to find the answer. To have at it is something that we say when we're trying to encourage somebody to do something. Like, here's a task. I can't do it. Have at it. That means go, try, do it. To pick at someone is a very unpleasant thing. It's what our mothers tend to do at us. You always do this. You always do that. Will you please stop? Clean up your room. Like that. That's picking at somebody. To throw something at, I said, and to yell or scream or shout at. Away is we have to be carried away. To break away. This one you know. To pass away. And it's always increasing distance. Here it's increasing distance from life. To put someone away means to put someone in jail. To put something away means to put something in its proper place. To tear oneself away, we say, oh, I don't want to leave the party, but I have to tear myself away. It's a very polite way to tell people that you want to leave, or that you have to leave. And waste away is something that we use when people are dying and becoming very thin. We would say she's wasting away, becoming very thin. Back. Now back has several meanings. Back here means not forward, so it's like this, okay? We have to, or reducing. You cut back on things, you can draw back or drop back or pull back or fall back. All of these are used in military terms when they're describing the movements of armies. Like the army fell back, the army pulled back, the army drew back, always like that. You can fall back on something. This guy you can use a lot, I think, when you need to use an earlier version of something, like if you're making a computer program and you have a big problem in the version that you have now, you need to go back to an earlier version. You can fall back on it. Roll back, stay back, take back a statement, think back, and walk back a statement. I'm interested in politics, so I notice that when a politician makes a stupid mistake, he says something dumb, and the next day all of the press are bothering him about it, and he goes, oh, well, I didn't really mean to say that. He walks back his statement. Okay. Now, how much of this do you guys want to do? Are you still interested or not? Shall I go on through? Yeah? Yes?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Back not only can mean this, but it can mean, like, could you hold up your hand? All right, I want you to push. So it's pushing back, okay? And that is reciprocation or retribution. So we have, reciprocation just means returning something, right? So you call somebody back, come back. You can get back at someone, which is revenge. You can give something back, or just give back. We often will say, oh, you're doing a nice thing. Well, I'm just trying to give back. That means I'm trying to return the good things that happened to me. To fight back is to defend yourself. To kick something back can be like when a computer rejects a certain result. We will say it kicked it back. Kicked it back. To pay someone back is repay or get revenge. And talk back doesn't mean just speaking back to someone. Talk back is to speak disrespectfully. And so we often use it of a child who is speaking like to an adult disrespectfully. We'll say he was talking back to his mother. And it's not a good thing. Okay. Down. Down can be stopping or slowing. So back down, be bogged down, break down, close down, come down to something. Die down, which means to gradually stop. Live something down means to endure a scandal until it stops. So that if you are at the center of a scandal and everybody in your town believes that you did a terrible thing, There are a couple of ways to deal with it. One is to prove that you didn't do it, and the other one is just to wait and endure the scandal until it all goes away. And so that's a hard one. Step down is this one. This is how we talk about killing a pet, killing a cat or dog. We don't say, I'm going to kill my dog. That's too direct for us. We say, instead, I'm going to put him down. Or I'm going to get him put down by someone else. To step down is what we often use for resign, and turn down means to refuse or reject. So, and down has three meanings. This one is reducing or simplifying, which means to make things more specific or come to some essence. So we have to be sad or reduced to its basic elements, or break down. I have a friend who uses this a great deal. He says, let me break it down to you. And what do you think he might mean by let me break it down to you?
Explain element by element.
Explain element by element. It really is analysis. It's analyzing. So, and we can use that also. You know this one, calm down, but we also have simmer down, which is talking about a boiled pot and how it has, when a pot of water is boiling, it's very active, and we could assume that that's something like being angry. Simmer down means to become more calm. Calm someone down. Come down with someone, something means to become sick. To cut down on something is to reduce your use, so you cut down on cigarettes. Feel down is to feel sad. Let someone down is to disappoint someone. So all of these are, it's really remarkable. If you look at a piece of normal dialogue in English, we would use these just as much as we use regular verbs, or more. Okay, this down also means control or superiority. So, and we think with down, it's like if I'm gonna try to get up. I'm controlling him. Not very successfully.
You are strong.
I was trying. Okay, so I was trying to control him, and all of these we use with this. Clamp down. Crackdown. Crackdown is used a lot in describing the actions of police. You know, when there is unrest in a city, the police crack down. That is, they get out with all of their guns and they make sure that nobody moves. To cut someone down to size is to humiliate someone verbally. To say nasty things, to take someone down, in fact, this is really an idiom. To keep someone down is to repress someone or stop them from acting like I just kept you down. To look down one's nose at something is to, like the, to look down on someone is about the same thing, and to put someone down, you would never think this. To put someone down means to insult someone. Right? And it's so easy. I mean, it's easy and it's difficult. Because put someone down, he put me down, means he insulted me, but you would never think to put and down together to make that. But there it is. 4 is a really interesting one. Fall for someone, fall for something. This one is interesting. To fall for a trick means that somebody tries to trick you and you believe it. Like I believe that he's the king of, what are you?
Yes.
Yeah. And I said, oh yes. Right. And so I fell for it. I fell for it. Now notice, now this is something that's going to be hard for you guys, is that have you noticed how many of these are irregular verbs? Look at how many of them are irregular verbs, which means that if you put them into any other tense, you're going to have to remember the past tense or the past participle. You're going to have to remember fall, fell, fallen. He has fallen for her, right? So if you want to use these, you have to remember that most of them do use irregular verbs, and they require that you be conjugating in your head. You have to be thinking of the different forms of the verbs. Okay. Let's see, fall for something. Head for something means to go toward a place. So I'm heading for the library. Means I'm going to the library. name someone for and run for an office. I'm interested in politics, so people are, who just stopped running for the presidency?
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz. And I heard that John Kasich also stopped running for the presidency. John Kasich, so Trump is it. Welcome to America. Oh boy. Okay, for also means secondary, and this is a really, really hard meaning for most non-native speakers to get to. For here means that you're not doing the first thing you thought about, you're doing the second thing you thought about. Okay? Or you may be doing something for someone else. That is, something that's not going to benefit you, but it's going to benefit somebody else. So look at the first one at the top. Cover for someone. It means to protect someone by substituting for them or lying. So I could say, maybe, Mrs. Rabar, may I play? All right, so say that Mrs. Rabar just doesn't feel like going to class one day. All right, and I come to her class and I said, oh, Mrs. Rabar, she's so sick. Right? She's actually not sick, I'm lying.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm at the movies.
Right, she's at the movies and I am lying, but I am covering for her. I am covering for her. All right. We have to hold out for something is to insist on a result that you want. Okay? So to say, well, I want this class, and the person says, no, you can't have this class. And you say, but I want this class. And no, you can't have this class. I want this class! This is holding out. Holding out for something. Look out for someone means to protect someone or be watchful for someone. To make up for something means to compensate. So make up means, it has a couple of meanings, but make up for something means, let's say that me, for example, I am terrible at math. I'm terrible at math. But I make up for it with my calculator. Let's say. I compensate for it with my calculator. To mistake or take someone for means to wrongly identify a person. So that if I see Mustafa and I think, oh my God, hi Ahmed. Okay, I made a mistake. I thought that he was a different person. Okay. To settle for someone or settle for something is very, very important to know because it means you didn't get the thing you wanted. You got something else. And it was your second choice. And you were not happy about it. But you accepted it because you had no choice. So, maybe you applied to Harvard and to the University of Tennessee. Now, I teach at the University of Tennessee. It's a good school. But let's say that you didn't get into Harvard, so you take your second choice. How would I say that in a sentence? I settled for UT. All right? In has two main meanings. One of them, this is very subtle. The first one is to bring inside, bring to where you are. And the second one is to move inside to something else. And it's a very, very subtle distinction. To be taken in means to be tricked or fooled. To call in to to call in is what we use all the time. We use this all the time to say, I'm calling my office or I'm calling my home to find out how things are. I got to call in. You know check in already? Do you know chip in? Chip in means to put a little bit of money toward a common cause. So that, for example, if everybody wants to buy Mrs. Rabar flowers, we all give $1 and then we've got $30. So we all chip in. To drink something in is to deeply enjoy. It's to bring that experience into your mind. To do someone in is to kill someone. You may not be aware of this one. To do someone in, so yeah, don't cast that around as a threat. To take someone in means when a person is in a bad condition and they need someone to help to bring them into their home, To shelter them for a while, you take them in. To work someone into a schedule, if you have ever had a doctor's appointment or a dentist's appointment and you call in, and you say, please, can you help me with my tooth? And they say, well, I'll work you in. And that means that I will find place for you in the schedule. Okay. In is moving inside, is all of these things. I'll take a moment to let you look at it, and could you ask me any questions that you have? Take a look. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to keep on going. Into always names the object. So to be into something, there's always a word after into. You can count on it. It doesn't exist as all by itself. Be into, I'm into words. That's what I'm into. Bump into someone, run into someone, change into something, like I'm going to change into my exercise clothes. To tap into something means to access a greater source of knowledge, to tap into. So I can tap into the knowledge of my professor. Run into, turn into, and change into. Turn into, you probably already know, which is to take a shape, or take a different shape. Okay. Off is important because it can mean breaking or canceling or not having any contact. So off is the one we would use if, we can use break up as well, but if there are two countries that get so angry at each other that they don't want to talk anymore, we will say they broke off talks. They broke off talks. Okay. Blow someone off means to ignore that person or to not keep an engagement with them. So maybe if I have a lunch date with somebody and he doesn't come, he blew me off. And you'll hear this. So we have all of these. I'm just going to go from here because we're running out of time and your eyes are glazing over and I understand this completely. What we're going to do is I'm going to flip through these and give you just a couple of seconds to understand. Look at the center of the wheel, okay? Look at the center of the wheel and look around a little bit. And then we'll go on. And then I have a way for you guys, I have some worksheets for you to do. And what I'd really love to see is to have you work in pairs. I'll give you each pair, I'll give you a worksheet. And it will have, these things will be missing. There will be a list of the phrasal verbs, but the phrasal verbs here will be missing. The definitions will be here. So you will have to work with your partner to try to figure out which phrasal verbs are there. We have almost enough native speakers to help each. Will the native speakers help me a little bit? Would you serve as one? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 native speakers. Would that be okay? Would that be a fun thing to do?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. They're all game, right? What does it mean to be game? It means willing to do something. Okay, so we've got off as breaking, canceling, or no contact. So off can mean like this. Off can be moving away from. We use this very, very frequently, just to move away from. So back off, drive off, drop off, get off, etc. Off can mean starting. And this is the one, who asked me about this when we first came in? Somebody asked me about go off. Go off means to explode. So off can be used with these verbs to talk about the beginning of a process. To set someone off means to make someone very angry suddenly. To begin a game, you've seen this at the football games. It's kickoff. They're beginning it. Hit it off with somebody means to enjoy being with them from the start. Okay, so I'm going to go on. On generally means contacting. It really, really means contacting. It really only has 2 meanings, but this is one of the most important ones. On is contacting. So we have to call on someone, I made a mistake in the spelling, catch on, check on, etc. To make a formal appeal to someone for support, quickly understand, become fashionable, periodically watch or check, to mount or climb on, actually get into contact physically with something. This one. To pick on someone means to bully someone. Okay? On also means continuing, and this is a really important one. To go on and on and on and on. That means continuing. So we have build on, carry on, drag on, dream on, drone on, go on, hang on. All of these mean continuing. Go, go, go. All right? Out can mean completeness. So we have to blow out a tire. It's completely gone. To clean out a room, to dry something out, figure something out, fill out. All of these are about completeness or thoroughness. To back out means to go out the other way, and etc. Now, Miss Linda, your students, I just realized I've gone over time for them. If you're in Mrs. Rabar's class, if you don't want to stay, that's fine. Shall we take a quick break? Let's take a quick break. And if you want to stay for the workshop part, I think we'll do that. I don't want to keep you here for a whole hour and a half just looking at these things. Okay, so let's take a 2-minute break or a 3-minute break. And if you don't want